Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Start with Brandon for the roll call.
Brandon Holmes, present.
Hannah Dix, present.
Dan Matthews, present.
Carrie Hudson, present.
Brian Munn.
Butch Freeman.
Keith Block.
Butch Freeman.
Turn on top.
Okay. Bob, since you're back with us, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Is this his first meeting back?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of January 30th?
Motion to approve.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the following items for consent docket, unless there's any individual consideration.
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Good afternoon. This is regarding the forfeiture account as of January 31st, 23. And we have a outstanding balance of $1,512,920. There were no forfeitures recorded because BOK only does it every other month, so that's why you see that. And we'll have an estimated balance of 1.7 million at the end of the year. If there's any questions?
Motion to receive the report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Wilkerson?
Good afternoon. Item number 7 is an employee with the sheriff's office. This is actually one of our vested defined benefit participants. He worked for 10 years and just asking for your approval.
I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
on it. Where did I see that? I think it was on the workup sheet.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, I can't find it, but anyway, it's the amount of money then that this person, I didn't quite follow that, the amount of money that this person had earned, or what?
Earned, so what it goes off the highest 36 months of pay, and then if they work at least 8 years, they get a percentage of the highest 36 months. He worked 10 years, so on the defined benefit schedule, he would be entitled to 26.65% of his monthly average, his top 36 monthly average of pay.
Did you verify that he had not withdrawn his money? Because if he withdrew his money, he's not entitled to anything.
Yeah, he was not on the withdrawal list.
So he kept his money with the county.
Yeah, in the defined benefit plan.
And he actually left the county in October of 91.
That is correct.
Why is he just now?
On our plan, on the defined benefit plan, you cannot collect benefits until you turn age 62. So he turned age 62 back in March of 2021. So he's entitled to benefits starting April 1st, 2021, a month following his 62nd second birthday.
Okay, and that's where that total sum came up.
Yeah, the catch-up payment. So we did 23 months of catch-up payments. It's from April 21 and through February of this year.
And that was like $9,000. And again, I can't find that number now,
Correct.
but that was like, so was that paid to him then as a one-time check?
Correct. The catch-up payment is, and it includes this month as well for February. So it catches him up when he was eligible from April 2021 through current. And that catches him up. And then moving forward, his monthly pension amount is $399.70.
When did we switch from defined benefit to defined contribution?
91.
Was he on the list of people in 91 that did not switch?
Correct. He's vested, but not, he was vested but terminated. So he had to wait until he turned 62 to start collecting his pension.
Okay, do we give him something that shows
how much he contributed when he gets his check, so he knows, because he paid, for a period of time, he was paying taxes on that money that was being contributed, so he'll be able to, to offset some of that money. Do we ever do?
We don't do anything. On our end, all we do is pull copies of their paycheck and employment records and show that they qualified for the pension or not qualified, first based on their employment information, and put it on the board's agenda.
Is there a mechanism? Because I would hate for him not to be able to, I mean, it could save him $500 or $600 if he, since it was a defined contribution, it was a defined benefit plan, but prior to 84, and he worked prior to 84, he was contributing his own money into that plan. He's in the same situation where.
So he put money in the plan, the county put money in the plan, and then at one point, they ended employee contributions and only did employer contributions. So it's all the same pot. They have to work to qualify based on years. So I don't think that would impact his benefit, what he receives from the county.
Won't impact his benefit, but if he knows about it, it might help him as far as tax.
We can look in that and bring it back next month if you'd like us to.
No, I mean, I'm fine with approving it
Okay.
and whatever, but we might just want to tell him that if he can figure out how much he had personally contributed before taxes, he might tell his accountant, it might help.
It does, you are correct in that it does not change the amount of money that he will get in his retirement. But if he had some contributions in there, and he probably should have, I agree with Bob, because he came on in 92, April, then the first set of checks that he gets, then the taxes have already been paid on that, and it may only be as much as 2 or 3 checks. But
we
the
can
first
look
one.
into that for
Now,
sure.
there's a list somewhere in this courthouse. I'm sorry?
They gotta prorate it.
What do you mean you got a prorate?
Whatever he put in, it's prorated out
Over the life of the.
over his lifespan, so he doesn't get, that's the old rule, Butch, so when he's drawing
Yeah.
it now, whatever he has as his basis, it only reduces each check,
Why would he not be grandfathered?
because it's when you draw, not when you,
Okay. Okay.
it's when you draw.
Okay.
So, the point is, if he does have some basis in it, we need to at least let him know.
Yeah.
And then you allocate that, like Donna said, you calculate it based on his life expectancy, and every month, you will take a prorated share of that and show that there's the gross and the taxable. And then on his 1099, it'll show that on his 1099.
It's the county's responsibility to get the 1099 all right.
Yeah, we issue those.
Yeah, you've got to figure out if he's got basis, and if he does, you got to go back and allocate it over his life expectancy, and including that lump sum payment, you've got to calculate on that.
So if those are pre-tax contributions, that would
Yes, if
impact,
they're
but
pre-
not after tax.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay.
Can I
No,
ask one other
They're after
question?
tax.
John, was he on our list of somebody that the actuary knew was gonna retire someday?
He was not listed on there. And we have a lot of people that pop up sometimes. We pull their records and they weren't listed. Since I've been here, we probably had 15 people like that. So the records weren't clear back then, but his employment records were, paycheck records were, so he qualified for sure.
Get it right, John.
I'm trying. I'm trying. So from what we have, we showed he was employed. He was eligible. He worked the time. So just asking for your approval.
Did you have a yes and a,
No.
okay, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, these next ones are a lot more simpler. They're regular retirements, so
They're in good standing, I assume.
yes, sir. So number 8 is for William Cunningham from the jail. He worked 9 years and he qualifies for retirement.
Motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Lori Mills.
Lori Mills, long-term court clerk employee, worked 39 years in the court clerk's office and she qualifies for retirement.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Then item 10, Bank of Oklahoma is here. I asked them to come out. There's some retirement plan rules changing. It's called the Secure 2.0 Act. Some of these affect us, some of them don't, some of them are voluntary. So I'm gonna let James Birch with BOK kind of go over an update of what's coming down the road.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you today. Again, as John mentioned, I'm here to discuss Secure 2.0. I want to start off by saying that I am not an expert on this act. It is a very lengthy act, and so there's still a lot that we're unpacking. There's a lot that we're going to need guidance on from the IRS in terms of how to implement this. But I did want to touch on a couple of things that are going to impact you all this year, and then a couple of optional provisions that we may look at going down the line. I do want to throw out that I was talking to our plan compliance manager, Debbie Crump, and she has offered to come down at some point in time to discuss this more in depth as we move forward. One of those things that you all want to consider for the employees of Oklahoma County. And so again, this went into law December 29th, and so they gave us 2 days to try and figure everything out. And so not a lot of time to prepare for that. The good part is that being a governmental plan and being on a calendar year basis, all amendments have to be completed by December 31st, 2028. So there is plenty of time to get these implemented in terms of amendments. As far as what's going to impact you all this year, one of the biggest benefits that they're doing is they're starting to raise the required minimum distribution age. And so beginning January 1st of this year, the new RMD age is now 73. So if you have not started a required minimum distribution prior to this year, the new age will be 73. And so the goal is for them to get that age to 75.
Okay, question on that.
Yes.
You still do not have to do an RMD though, as long as you're fully employed, right?
Correct. In a governmental plan, you do not have to start an RMD until
you retire.
Until you retire, yes, because there's none of the ownership rules that apply on the other side. And then January 1st of 2033, so 10 years from now, that age will go to 75. And so they're beginning to phase that up, and 75 is the end age for RMDs inside of retirement plans. And so again, 73 this year, it'll jump to 75 10 years from now. And so that's one of the big benefits of people not having to take the money out if they don't need to. Another provision that is going to be mandatory, this does not start this year. This starts January 1st of next year. And that is that if you have any employees that make over $145,000 a year and want to make catch-up contributions, those will now have to be made in Roth. And so Roth contributions starting next year for any employee making over $145,000 will have to go into Roth. The good part is we already have that in the 457 plan, so we aren't going to have to make any changes to the 457 plan to accommodate that. And so that's one of the bigger mandatory requirements for those starting. Oh, yes, sir.
I thought there was a maximum amount of salary that you could make to even contribute.
Not inside of a retirement plan. That's true in the out, like if you have an IRA outside of a retirement plan, but inside of a retirement plan, such as the 457, there's no salary limitations. So anybody can make Roth contributions inside of the 457 plan.
Okay, and our plan right now with you all allows for 457 retirement plan, and how much can you contribute in that one year?
Yes, sir. It's I believe the limits this year are 22,500 if you're under the age of 50, and then the catch-up this year is 7,500.
So, okay, and then that would apply to people also making under 140,000 if they want.
Yes. Yeah. The only change as far as catch-up starting January 1st of next year is that if you make over 145,000, they have to be done in Roth dollars. And so. And then another item around catch-up contributions starting January 1st of 2025, so not next January, but the year after, is they're going to start allowing a special catch-up contribution for individuals between the age of 60 and 63. And so starting January 1st of 2025, individuals between those two ages can make an additional $10,000 a year in contributions, or the higher of 150% of next year's contribution amount, the catch-up amount. So let's say the IRS comes in next year and makes the catch-up limit $8,000. That special catch-up contribution for those between the ages of 60 and 63, starting January 1st of 2025, they'd be able to put in 12,000 instead of 10. So the minimum amount for those individuals with this new special feature that they're adding is going to be $10,000 starting in 2025. And so those are really being a governmental plan, those are really the provisions that are required to apply to you all. The good part is no actions needed today, so we don't need to take any action on the plan document or anything. But those are now those are the mandatory items that apply to you. I did want to touch. John did mention that there are some optional items, and so I did want to run by a couple of them just to plant a seed in your head, and that way, when that time comes for us to sit down and really discuss what we want to do for the employees of Oklahoma County with Debbie Crump, we can do so. So a couple of the optional provisions that we're looking at. One that we're getting a lot of questions on is the ability for employees to elect to receive their employer contributions in Roth. And so that is actually an option that is available starting January 1st of this year. We are not recommending that to any of our clients currently. Between whether you do payroll internally or have a payroll company, there's just not a lot of guidance in how that would actually work. And so that's something that is optional. That's something that's optional that you could do, but at this point in time, we're not recommending to any of our clients to implement that just from the functionality standpoint. But that is something that is part of this, and so we are doing our research on that. And as we have more guidance, we'll bring that to you all. But that is an option if the retirement board would want to approve that for employer contributions. The next is the next item that is available that we could implement is they now allow penalty-free withdrawals for terminal illnesses. So if you have somebody who has been certified as terminally ill by their physician, they can take a penalty-free withdrawal from the retirement plan, and it is not subject to the 10% penalty. So that is something that we could look at implementing if you wanted to. The certification has to be within 84 months, and that can be repaid within 3 years. If it's deemed to be terminal and turns out it's not terminal, that can be repaid to the plan as well. So that is something that is optional. Again, we're not pushing any of these to our clients right now, making these recommendations, but the terminal illness is something that could be implemented this year if the retirement board saw fit.
If we did not do that, could somebody force us to do that?
No, it's completely optional. And then starting in 2024, there are a couple that I wanted to point out. So starting January 1st of next year, and your plan already has something similar to this with the unforeseen emergency distribution, but they are also adding an emergency expense distribution next year that allows participants, if they have they self-certify, so it's not going to be, the onus isn't on John and his team or anybody else to certify, it's self-certified. But what it does is, if an employee has an emergency, they can take out to $1,000 out of the plan starting January 1st of next year if the retirement board decided to implement it. And again, that can be repaid within 3 years. And if it's not, then with that distribution, then they couldn't take another one for 3 years. And that's pretty consistent with a lot of these optional features. There's a 3-year payback window, and if they don't do it, then they can't do it again for another 3 years. And so that is one that we thought we might mention. But you do have something very similar with the unforeseen emergency distribution that's already inside the plan. The next one is one I hope nobody would ever have to use, but starting January 1st of next year, they are also allowing for a domestic abuse withdrawal. So if you have a participant or an employee who's subject to domestic abuse, they can take a distribution out as well. That's another one we get questions on. It's the lesser of $10,000 or 50% of their account value. And again, hopefully that is one that can be implemented, but again, hopefully it's one nobody ever has to deal with. And so those were really the optional distribution provisions that I would just wanted to bring to your attention. And so I'll stop there and see if there's any questions.
Questions?
As far as the optional, there are obviously standards that, in other words, what would you have to show for the victim to have been a victim of domestic abuse? would you make recommendations to us if we decided we wanted to change the plan?
It's self-certification. And so
Self-certification.
it's yeah. And so with a lot of these optional distributions, it's self-certification. So it's not the responsibility of the plan sponsor, the retirement board, John or his team. The employee self-certifies, and then with all of these optionals, they have the ability to repay it within 3 years. So
They'd have to pay taxes on the money when they
yes,
took it out.
yeah, they're all penalty free, they're not tax free.
And obviously, they would have to be vested in the plan before they could do that.
Correct. Yeah.
What's the difference between that, I mean, other than just the circumstantial and, I mean, they can take loans off of their vested retirement now, right?
Yes.
So what would be the difference there?
The difference is if with these distribution provisions, they don't have to repay them. They just have the option to.
Oh, okay.
And if they don't, then the 3-year window starts where they have to be another 3 years before they can take anything else out.
And there's one that's in just a general emergency, and all they'd have to do is certify it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And keep in mind, you also already have that unforeseen emergency distribution that allows them, I think, to take up to $5,000 out currently. That's very common. That's common in all governmental plans. This would just be an additional distribution that they could take. But as I was talking to Debbie, who's the manager, the DC plan, for those who are vested, is pretty flexible in terms of accessing money. And so that's why we just wanted to bring these to your attention so you're aware.
I thought if we approved, there were certain standards for us to approve emergency distributions, and if they didn't meet those standards, we could approve them.
There are. So the current definition is it truly has to be unforeseen, and they have to provide documentation for the distribution up to the 5,000. This is just self-certification. They can come in and say, I have this emergency, I'm certifying this, and then they can request a distribution after that.
You see, because years ago, we had individuals who would want to buy a boat and things like that, and we stopped that after a while because they were coming in and saying, well, that was quote unquote an emergency and whatever. But if we were allowed for self-certification, then we wouldn't be having to turn people down like that.
You could sort of say that we pull the plug.
Well, that would be between them and the IRS if they were ever audited. So.
Well, not necessarily.
Or they
because
didn't pull the plug.
If the IRS determined that we were allowing people just to pull that money out for no reason at all, then they could make our plan taxable.
I'm certain we would have guidance on what self-certification would look like to make sure that that does not happen, because the last thing we ever want to do is, challenge the tax qualification status of the plans, and that's why we're here for you.
They wrote a law and then they will come back and clean it up with the regulations. They haven't gotten that far yet. Okay, when we get to that point, we'll know where we're supposed to go.
Okay.
We are waiting on a lot of guidance in terms of the Secure 2.0 Act. And so we'll be following up with John and his team on that. We had a call last week that I believe he sat in on, and so we will continue to have those, and as more information becomes available. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Very good job.
Appreciate
Very
it.
knowledgeable. Thank you.
Motion to receive his report.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any citizens wishing to speak? Seeing none, is there any board comments? Is there any new business? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.